Joining me right now is the former acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He's a Fox News contributor, Tom Homan. Tom, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here. So what do you think? The administration claims it's going to have these projects to fill in the gaps where the wall ends. Are you buying it? Do you think they're going to fix these gaps?
I think it's close to election time. I think that's what's happening. I mean, look, they haven't done a thing to secure this border. They stopped building the wall. Now they're going to fill the gates where two walls are running up against each other. There's a gate missing. They may fill the gates in, but they're not going to put up any meaningful wall. They'll continue to let that wall rot in the ground. But again, elections coming. They know they're in trouble. They're going to try to show something because Maria, they haven't done a single thing to slow the flow. Everything they've done is about processing people and releasing them quicker, which only brings more. They've failed 16 months in a row, record numbers, 16 months in a row. So I think they're getting nervous. I think they're going to try to show they're doing something, but it's not going to account to much.
What are you hearing about the activity at the border right now, Tom? Because we know that a federal judge has blocked the administration from lifting Title 42, and there were a whole host of thousands of people waiting to cross the border thinking that Title 42 was going away. Has anything changed?
Yeah, you're going to see it's going to be another record-breaking month in May when the numbers come out. They're going to be well over 220. I think, look, the people aren't going to wait for the courts to decide Title 42. What they're going to do, knowing that Title 42 is still in place and they may get returned under Title 42, they're just going to try to get away. So right now you see an uptick in Del Rio. In addition to RGB, there's an uptick in Yuma. Yuma's getting killed right now. And you're going to see an uptick in several areas across the border because the cartel is going to spread across the border to take advantage of places like Arizona, right? In Tucson, the gotaways are the highest in Tucson because there's very little infrastructure. There's not a lot of agents because most of them have been deployed to Texas. So you're going to see the cartels take advantage of these gaps because these groups now don't want to get caught. The family groups that turn themselves for the Border Patrol. Single adults from Mexico and Central America, they're going to try to get away now. So you're going to see a lot more people trying to sneak in and getting away. But the numbers are going to continue to climb.
It's amazing how many gotaways they are. You have to just assume that if you want to get into the country and get away and not get apprehended, then you must have some intention of doing something here that you don't want authorities to know about.
And that's just scared the hell out of everybody. Look, there's over 750,000 gotaways, recorded gotaways based on camera traffic, drone traffic, sensor traffic. These are recorded entries that the Border Patrol couldn't respond to because they're busy with the family units. 750,000, Maria. Think about it. We arrested 42 people on the terrorist watch list. The terror screening database. So how many of that 750,000 can be on that same screening database? That's probably the single most concerning thing I've seen on the border that has me concerned. In my 35 years doing this, I've never been more concerned about a national security threat that enters this country than I do right now.
Yeah, and we've already seen apprehensions of MS-13 members, people on terrorist watch lists. Meanwhile, Biden is reportedly closing in on a deal to resettle refugees in Spain to help deal with the surge of migrants at the border, as Canada is vowing to take in Haitian migrants seeking work who've tried to cross from Mexico. What about these side deals that he's talking about with Canada and Spain?
Again, an election must be coming up, but that's not going to scratch the surface. If they really cared about that, they would reinstate these safe third country agreements we had under the Trump administration, where with Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Mexico, where if you left Honduras, you're escaping fear and persecution from Honduras, you claim asylum in the first country you come to. And that was working on the Trump administration. It was a game changer. But they abolished those policies along with 90 other things they signed. So they're not taking this seriously. If they really wanted to, send refugees to other countries, they would have kept those agreements in place. So again, I think elections coming. But even if they do this, it's not going to scratch the surface. The numbers we're talking about. We're talking about 8,000 to 9,000 a day right now coming across. You're talking about a few hundred. It's not going to make a difference. They're going to keep coming until they make a move to actually enforce the border, enforce the law, let Border Patrol do their job, let ICE do their job, remove people that are ordered removed. You're not going to see a change.
All right, Tom, we're going to keep watching it. Thanks so much for weighing in on all of that. We appreciate it. Tom Homan joining us.